Four final questions with Tim before we get out as we round the bases here. The first one I want to ask you about just overall now is your business. And people can check out, by the way, the website too, smallbusinessmattersonline.com. You've got a lot going on between boot camps and coaching and groups, and you're traveling all over the country speaking. Vistage Speaker Top Performer Award for 2022. I'm giving the nice overall view of this business. Tell me a little bit more about your business, because you're certainly not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, it falls into really three different buckets. It's executive coaching. I work at any given time with a dozen or so different business owners, CEOs. It's speaking. It's like yourself. I travel the country speaking to groups of business owners. And then the third is I facilitate meetings. I'm asked to come in, whether it's a group of CEOs or a group of executives. I get hired to come in and facilitate. I call it referee leadership meetings.
Those are always fun too. It's not as difficult as being a referee. You got to keep things moving though, obviously. And there is a lot of nuance to that. The good ones really know how to hit all those right points and the timing of it. Along with that business, I know that you have written multiple books. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about that, and your podcast and everything that everybody is doing nowadays. But tell me about the books as well.
Sure. Yeah, Joel, I've got 3 books on Amazon. The first one's called Small Business Matters. This is my first book. It's a collection of articles, blogs that I've written over time that I compiled into a book. The second book is called Small Business Matters and All That Jazz. And it's similar to the first book. As I continue to write, I had more content that I wanted to publish. The third book was the hardest. The third book is called The Meeting, and it's what's referred to as business fiction. It's a story about a one-day Vistage meeting. A group of CEOs get together for a day, and it's just about a one-day Vistage meeting. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to write, but it was very enjoyable as well. It's called The Meeting.
All right, so everybody should check those out. My third question is a little bit more lighthearted. I don't know if it's lighthearted or not. It's just a little bit off topic, but I saw that you have hiked the El Camino a couple of times. I know my good friend Mark LeBlanc has a sometimes annual pilgrimage to doing that. I'm just curious what sounds to me like a very peaceful yet grueling exercise, at least in my mind, that's what it is. Seems also like a once in a lifetime. I don't know that it's something I would ever do or not. Maybe. I mean, there are a lot of things I absolutely won't do. I wouldn't rule that one out. What did that do for you?
Amazing experience. The El Camino Santiago, I've done it on 3 occasions. The first time, it's a 500-mile walk across the country of Spain, starting at the French-Spain border, going over the Pyrenees Mountains, and then 500 miles across the city of Santiago. The first time I did it completely by myself. The second time, my son wanted to do it, so he and I did it, and that was a great experience. For any parent to be able to spend roughly 30 days, one-on-one with your son or daughter. And then the third was during COVID, and it's called the Portuguese. It starts in Lisbon and goes north into Spain and back to Santiago. And it's an adventure. It's just a great adventure to just set out it's only me and a backpack and walking from town to town, city to city, meeting people from all over the globe, all over the world. They come to do this walk. And it's an occasion for me, and maybe you get some of this in the off season, to just kind of clear my head for a period of time and do a level of thinking that I'm just not capable of doing, when I'm doing my work day in and day out. So it's something I would highly recommend any of your listeners who just feel like they just need to get away, detach for a period of time. You can do it for a week, you can do it for a month, whatever works for you.
It sounds like a really, really cool experience, and I've heard nothing but great things. I don't know if I can make it all those 30 days. I'm sure I could. Why not? I'm just not running any marathons. That's one thing I'll never do in this lifetime. All right, my last question, the walk-off. This is I think it's the simplest question, or maybe it's the most complicated. I don't know, but I'll take it right out of a title that you will appreciate. Why does small business matter?
Small business matters to me because it's where most of the jobs in this country are produced through small businesses. It's where most of the innovation in this country comes from small businesses. It's how schools get funded in small communities. It's how baseball teams get sponsored. Most of my family has been involved in some shape or form in small business. It's where my genes are, in terms of being an entrepreneur. And I think it's the future of our country. Not that we don't need big companies. We certainly need large corporations, but I think this country thrives on small business. And that's what gets me up in the morning every day.
Always has, and I think and believe always will. And so as long as small business matters, as is pretty much in everything in Tim's world, he will be a very busy man, at least as busy as he wants to be. Real quick too, tell me about the podcast, just so people can go and listen to that. And then you can see, everybody can check out all of this at Small Business Matters online. Tell me about the podcast.
Sure. The podcast we started doing a couple of years ago. Like yourself, we do a couple of them a month. The guests, sometimes they're small business owners. Sometimes they're experts who work with small business owners. Sometimes they're just people who I find really interesting, who I think have something to share with our listeners. But as you can imagine, it all circles around the importance of small business.
I would say you fit all three of those categories in coming on this podcast. Really grateful to Mary Ritz for connecting me to you. And I think Brian Davidson to Mary Ritz to Tim Fulton. I always like to see that networking family tree, like a coaching tree, so to speak. It's I think what makes the world go round, and certainly small businesses and their world go round, is the ability to connect and network with others. Again, just want to let everybody know you can find out more about Tim, his business, his services, the products at Small Business Matters online. Tim, thanks so much for spending time and for being so insightful on so many different topics here on Rounding the Bases.
Very welcome, Joel. And I look forward to having you on the Small Business Matters podcast.
I like that. It's what we call in sports a home and home. So I will come to your place next time. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.